The Parramatta Eels had the current longest premiership drought, going back 38 years, so it's my job to end that streak in today's video. It may take a little longer than it would a couple years ago with the Eels' current roster and their poor roster management. Our roster heading into the year looks like this. The fullbacks Clint Gutherson and Sean Russell, the wingers Hayes Dunster, Isaac Lumi, Bailey Simonson, Micah Sivo and Jake Targo, the centres Dejan Arce, Morgan Harbour and Will Penasini, the 5'8" Dylan Brown and Blaze Tulagi, the halfback Mitch Moses, the props Regan Campbell-Gillard, Wiremu Greg, Makahisi Makatoa, Joe Offahengawi, Offahiki Ogden, Junior Polo and Kai Rodwell, the hookers Brandon Hands and Joey Lussick, the second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Matt Dory, Dan Kerr, Sean Lane, Ryan Madison and Kelma Torluggy, and the lock is Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1 we take on the Penrith Panthers, and this is how we look. The fullback Blaze Tulagi, the wingers Micah Sivo and Sean Russell, the centres Will Penasini and Bailey Simonson, the 5'8" Dylan Brown with Moses the captain at halfback, the props Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paolo, Brandon Hands is the hooker, on the edges Sean Lane and Ryan Madison with Jermaine Hopgood at lock, on the bench Joey Lussick, Joe Offahengawi, Wiremu Greg and Kelma Torluggy. Both Gutherson and Cartwright are out due to injury and suspension. We get a disappointing result in round 1, going down to the Panthers 26 points to 4. Brian To'o wins player of the match. In round 2 we take on the 3rd place South Sydney Rabbitohs, and as you can see our team list is still unchanged. Hopefully we can get a better result than last week, but it's looking unlikely. It is a better result, but it's still a loss. We go down to the Rabbits 26 points to 24. Cameron Murray picks up player of the match. In round 3 we take on the struggling Broncos, and our team is pretty much the exact same, except we get bolstered by the return of Bryce Cartwright. He slots in to the second row spot, Ryan Madison moving to the bench, pushing Wiremu Greg out of the team. Other than that, it is still the same from the last 2 weeks. And we start 0-3, we go down to the Broncos, 19 points to 12. Ezra Mann picks up player of the match. We're 10 games into the competition, and we're currently sitting in 11th spot. We have 8 points, 4 wins and 6 losses. We have a points for of 190 and a points against of 202. We have a points differential of -12. In round 4 we lost 30 to 22 against the Dragons. In round 5 we beat the Bulldogs 24-22. In round 6 we beat the Cowboys 30 to 20. In round 7 we lost to Manly 14-12. Round 8 we beat the Warriors 28-10. In round 9 we lost to the Storm 13-6. And in round 10 we beat the Dolphins 28-22. The Eels are looking to go into a rebuild in real life, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna not sign these older players like Offahengawi and Joey Lussick and Makahisi Makatoa. The first player I'm gonna try and lock up will be Hayes Dunster. I'll offer him a $350,000 deal for 3 seasons, and he resigns with us. What a great resigning. Offahengawi is only 28, so I'll offer him another 3-year extension worth $375,000. Let's hope he resigns, which he does. Another great resigning by the club. We could use an upgrade at the hooker position, so I'm going to target Tom Starling from the Raiders. I'll offer him a 3-year deal worth $550,000 a year. and he doesn't. He signs with the Storm. If we don't upgrade a deal, I'll offer it by $10,000 a year, and hope he resigns. And he does. He signs with the Parramatta Eels to play hooker next year. We somehow have made the finals after our abysmal 0-3 start. We end up in 6th place on 30 points. We have 13 wins and 11 losses. We have a points for of 435 and a points against of 406. We have a points differential of 29. We play the West Tigers at home in the first week of the finals. In round 1 of the finals, we take on the West Tigers at home. Our team looks like this. At fullback, Clint Gutherson. The wingers, Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell. Will Penasini and Blaze Tulagi are the centres. The halves, Dylan Brown at 5'8" and Moses at halfback. The props, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo. The hooker, Brendan Hands. On the edges, Sean Lane and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Joey Lussick, Joe Offahangawi, Kalma Tualagi and Ryan Madison. Before we get to the finals, the Daily M awards are here. The Daily M Player of the Year goes to Blake Brayley. The runners-up, Sunia Taruva, Tessie New, Alafiana Khan Pereira, Will Penasini, Brian To'o, Thomas Flegler, Isaac Targo, Jerome Luai, and Inari Tawala. The People's Choice Award goes to Blake Brayley. Captain of the Year goes to Jesse Bromwich. Top try scorer goes to Isaac Targo with 15 tries. And the top point scorer goes to Jermaine Asako with 203 points. The Team of the Year, the fullback Jaden Campbell, the winger Sunia Taruva, the centre Ewan Aiken, the 5'8" Jerome Luai, the halfback Nathan Cleary, the prop Moses Leota, the hooker Blake Brayley, the second rower Tavita Pengai Jr., and the lock Fanua Pole. We lose in the first round to the Tigers 14 points to 12. Stefano picks up player of the match, an old Eels player. There's a lot of positives going into this year and a lot of negatives. Hopefully next year we can continue the rebuild and get even younger. The Panthers win their 4th premiership in a row, defeating the South Sydney Rabbitohs 22 points to 2 in the grand final. Mitch Kenny picks up player of the match and the Clive Churchill medal. Congrats to him and the Panthers on their incredible achievement. Some notable off-season movements coming into next year. Kalen Ponga signs with the Titans. Isaac Tago signs with the Titans. Brian To'o signs with the Broncos. Liam Martin signs with another Eels team. We sign Tom Starling. Joey Lussick goes to the Storm. Will Greg goes to the Titans. Morgan Harper goes to the Storm. Makahisi Magatoa goes to Manly. Isaac Lumi goes to the Broncos. And Kai Rodwell goes to the Warriors. Our team for this year looks like this. The fullbacks Clint Gutherson and Sean Russell. The wingers Hayes Dunster, Bailey Simonson, Micah Sivo and Jake Targo. The centres Dejan Arce and Will Penasini. The 5'8" Dylan Brown and Blaze Tulagi. The halfback Mitchell Moses. The props Regan Campbell-Gillard, Joe Offahangawi, Ofahiki Ogden and Junior Polo. The hookers Brendan Hands and Tom Starling. The second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Matt Dorey, Dan Kerr, Sean Lane, Liam Martin, who somehow is on our team. I did not sign him, so I have no idea how much he signed for or for how long. Ryan Madison and Kalma Tualagi, and the lock is Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1, we take on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and our team looks like this. The fullback Clint Gutherson, on the wingers Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell. The centres Will Penasini and Blaze Tulagi. The halves Dylan Brown at 5'8" and Mitchell Moses at halfback. The props Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo, with Tom Starling at hooker. The edges Sean Lane and Liam Martin, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Brendan Hands, Joe Offahengawi, Ryan Madison and Bryce Cartwright. We have a great start to the season, blowing out the Bulldogs 24-0 in round 1. With Tom Starling's first game at the Eels, he wins Player of the Match. In round 2, we take on the first place Broncos, and as you can see, the team list is still unchanged. We're the exact same team. Hopefully we can get the same result as we did last week against the Bulldogs. And we can't. We lose our first game of the season, starting at 1-1 with a loss 14 points to 6 to the Broncos. Adam Reynolds wins Player of the Match. After a 1-1 start to the season, we take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and it's pretty much the exact same team, except Ofahiki Ogden comes onto the bench to replace Joe Offahengawi. Hopefully this change works and doesn't stab me in the back. And it works out. We pick up a 30 points to 8 win over the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Sean Lane with a double and the Player of the Match. We're 10 rounds in, and we're currently sitting in 3rd place on 14 points. We have 7 wins and 3 losses. We have a points for of 178 and a points against of 126. We have a points differential of 52. We've won 4 out of our last 5 games. In round 4, we lost to the Storm 24-14. In round 5, we beat the Tigers 28-18. In round 6, we beat the Seagulls 22-14. In round 7, we lost to the Warriors 26-0. In round 8, we beat the Panthers 20-0. In round 9, we beat the Broncos 18-14. And in round 10, we beat the Bulldogs 16-8. Clint Gutherson is on the older side, but he is our fullback and our captain, so I'll be offering him a $750,000 deal for 2 seasons. And he takes the contract and re-signs with us. Josh Schuster isn't a coach's favourite right now, but in this game he's really good and young and can cover multiple positions, so I'll be offering him a $475,000 deal across 3 seasons. And he wants to sign, but he doesn't think it's enough, so I'll offer him $495,000 across 3 years. And he accepts the deal. He is part of our team for next year. We're low on lock depth, so I'm going to be offering Tallis Duncan a 3-year deal worth $450,000 a season. And he loves the direction we are heading in and signs with us. We end the season in 8th spot, just qualifying for the finals. We finish with 28 points. We have 12 wins and 12 losses. We have a points for of 349 and a points against of 361. We have a points differential of -12, and we play the Storm in Melbourne in the first week of the finals. We play the Storm in the first week of the finals, and this is how our team looks. The fullback Clint Gutherson, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell, the centres Will Penasini and Blaze Tulagi, the halves Dylan Brown at 5'8" and Mitchell Moses a halfback, the props Regan Gamble-Gillard and Junior Paulo, with Tom Starling at hooker, on the edges Sean Lane and Liam Martin, with Ryan Madison at lock. On the bench, Brendan Hands, Joe Offahengawi, Bryce Cartwright and Kelma Tuolagi. But before we get to the finals, the Daily M Awards are here, and the Daily M Player of the Year by 1 point goes to Dallin Watene-Selesniak. The runners up are Brian To'o, Patrick Carrigan, Jordan Ricky, Luke Brooks, Jackson Polo, Micah Seaver, Tyrone Munro, Mitch Barnett and Zach Lomax. The People's Choice Award goes to Brian Tour. Captain of the Year goes to Jordan Ricky. Top try scorer goes to Dallin Watene-Selesniak with 22 tries. And the top point scorer goes to Zach Lomax with 154 points. The Team of the Year, the fullback Reece Walsh, the winger Dallin Watene-Selesniak, the centre Ruben Garrick, the 5'8" Luke Brooks, the halfback Adam Reynolds, the prop Payne Haas, the hooker Wade Egan, the second rower Jordan Ricky, and the lock Patrick Harrigan. For the second year in a row, we lose in the first week. We go down to the Storm 30 points to 16. Nick Meaney picks up player of the match. The Warriors end up winning the grand final, defeating Manly 18 points to 10. Marcelo Montoya wins player of the match and the Clive Churchill medal, so congrats to him and the Warriors on winning the premiership. Some notable player movements heading into next year are Dylan Brown going to the Dragons, Aden Fanua-Blake going back to Manly, Daniel Saifidi going to the Bulldogs, Jacob Saifidi going to the Dragons, Tom Burgess going to the Storm, Scott Drinkwater going to the Dolphins, Ruben Garrick going to the Storm, Josh King going to the Warriors, Ezra Mam going to the Dolphins, Justin Olem going to the Knights, Blake Taff going to the Broncos, Jazz Tavanga going to the Titans, Stafford Toa going to the Warriors, Corey Horsburgh going to the Cowboys, Sean Lane going to the Sharks, and Moses Sully going to the Panthers. Our roster going into the season looks like this. The fullback Clint Gufferson and Sean Russell, the wingers Hayes Dunster, Bailey Simonson and Jake Targo, the centers Dejan Arce and Will Penasini, the 5'8" Dylan Brown and Blaze DeLuggy, the halfback Mitchell Moses, the props Regan Campbell-Gillard, Joe Offahan-Gowie and Offahiki Ogden, the hookers Brendan Hands and Tom Starling, the second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Matt Dory, Dan Kerr, Liam Martin, Ryan Madison, Josh Schuster and Corbin, and the locks Tallis Duncan and Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1, we take on the North Queensland Cowboys, and this is how we look. The fullback Clint Gufferson, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell, the centers Will Penasini and Blaze DeLuggy, the halves Dylan Brown, the 5'8", and Mitchell Moses, the halfback, the props Regan Campbell-Gillard and Joe Offahan-Gowie, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Brendan Hands, Tallis Duncan, Ryan Madison and Josh Schuster. In round 1, we lose to the North Queensland Cowboys 24 points to 16, with Corey Horsburgh picking up player of the match. In round 2, we take on the Redcliffe Dolphins, and as you can see, our team list is still unchanged. We lose the second game in a row, going down to the Dolphins 28 points to 22. Tavita Pangai Jr. picks up a double and the player of the match. In round 3, we take on the Penrith Panthers, and the team is pretty much unchanged, except Matt Dory comes onto the bench, replacing the injured Ryan Madison. We're desperate for a win, let's hope we get it. And we can. We defeat the Penrith Panthers 14 points to 10. Sean Russell is the only player to score for us, with 2 tries and the player of the match. We're 10 games into the competition, and we're currently sitting in 11th spot on 8 points. We have 4 wins and 6 losses. We have a points for of 182 and a points against of 200. We have a points differential of -18. Dylan Brown is a vital part of our future, so I'm going to offer him $600K a year for the next 3 seasons, and he accepts the offer and re-signs with us. Liam Martin is getting older, but is still a vital part to our team, so I'm gonna offer him $500,000 for 3 years, and he re-signs as well. Blaze Talagi, another vital part of our future, only being 21 years old, so I'm offering him $550,000 across 3 years, and he re-signs as well. Will Penasini is also an important part of our team, so I'm going to offer him a $575,000 deal across 3 years, and he re-signs with us as well. I'm going to offer Jermaine Hopgood a $530,000 deal across 2 years, and he re-signs with us as well. James Fisher-Harris is a big name on the market, so I'm going to offer him a $475 deal across 3 seasons. Let's hope he signs with us. And he does. He loves the direction we're heading in and signs the contract with us. We finished the season in 8th place on 29 points. We had 12 wins and 11 losses and a draw. We had a points for of 410 and a points against of 380. We have a points differential of 30. We played the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the first week of the finals, and this is how our team looks. The fullback Clint Gutherson, on the wings Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell, the centres Will Penasini and Blaze Talagi, the halves of Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, the props Regan Campbell-Gillard and Joe Offahengawi, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Brandon Hands, Talis Duncan, Ryan Madison and Josh Schuster. Before we get into the finals, the Daily M Awards are here. And the Daily M Player of the Year, winning by 1 point, is Greg Marju. The runners-up are Jermaine Asako, Sean Russell, Michaeli Ravolawa, Toby Sexton, Shaq Mitchell, Alafiana Khan Pereira, Xavier Coates, Thomas Jenkins and Marcelo Montoya. The People's Choice Award goes to Jermaine Asako. Captain of the Year goes to Viliami Kikau. Top try scorer goes to Greg Marju with 19, and the top point scorer goes to Zach Lomax with 165 points. The Team of the Year, the fullback Will Price, the winger Greg Marju, the centre Bradman Best, the 5'8" Matt Burton, the halfback Toby Sexton, the prop Leo Thompson, the hooker Phoenix Crossland, the second rower Jacob Host, and the lock Josh Curran. We win our first finals game of the video, defeating the Rabbitohs 10 points to 2. Sean Russell picks up our only try scorer and a double, going with player of the match. In week 2 of the finals, we take on the Redcliffe Dolphins, and as you can see, our team list is still unchanged from last week. Hopefully we can get the same result by beating the Dolphins. And we can. We move on to the third round, defeating the Dolphins by 1 point, 17 points to 16. Mitchell Moses kicks the game-winning field goal, but Aisha Mam from the losing team wins player of the match. We take on the second place Bulldogs in the third week of the finals, and as you can see, our team list is still unchanged from the first 2 games. Let's hope we can get the same result. And we can. We're off to the grand final after upsetting the Bulldogs 18 points to 12. Joe Offahengawi wins player of the match. This was one of the all-time great upsets. It's a 2009 grand final rematch, taking on the Melbourne Storm 10 years later. Our team is still unchanged, so hopefully we can win the grand final. And we can't. We lose to them in the grand final again, 29 points to 22. Liam Martin wins the Clive Churchill medal on the losing team, scoring a double and the player of the match. But congrats to the Storm on winning the grand final and defeating us. Year 4 is here, so let's check out our team. The fullbacks Clint Gutherson and Sean Russell. The wingers Hayes Dunster, Bailey Simonson and Jake Targo. The centres Will Penasini. The 5/8s Dylan Brown and Blaze Tulagi. The halfback Mitchell Moses. The props James Fisher-Harris, Joe Offahengawi and Offahiki Ogden. The hooker Tom Starling. The second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Dan Kerr, Liam Martin, Josh Schuster, and the locks Tallis Duncan and Jermaine Hopgood. In the first week of the finals, we take on the Brisbane Broncos, and this is how our team looks. The fullback Clint Gutherson, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell, the centres Will Penasini and Blaze Tulagi, the halves Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, the props Joe Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Josh Schuster, Tallis Duncan, Offahiki Ogden and Hayes Dunster. Our lack of depth and a winger on the bench shows as we go down to the Brisbane Broncos, 26 points to 12. Reece Walsh scores a double and picks up player of the match. In round 2, we're taking on the first place Tigers, who are coming off a 24-point win over Manly. And as you can see, our team is still unchanged. And we get our first win of the season, defeating the Tigers 18 points to 12. Clint Gutherson scores a double and wins player of the match. In round 3, we're taking on the winless Panthers, and as you can see, the team list is unchanged. Hopefully we can go into the third week 2-1, and we can. We defeat them by 14 points to 6. Blaze Tulagi wins player of the match. We're 10 rounds in and we're sitting in 5th place. We're on 12 points with 6 wins and 4 losses. We have a points for of 151 and a points against of 154. We have a points differential of -3. In round 4, we defeated the Sharks 26-24. In round 5, we lost to the Storm 22-0. In round 6, we lost to the Dolphins 24-16. In round 7, we beat the Warriors 14-12. In round 8, we beat the Titans 15-8. In round 9, we lost to the Cowboys 16-12. And in round 10, we beat the Knights 24-4. Isaac Tago is a great centre, and he's still young, so I'm going to offer him $650,000 across 3 years. And he signs with us. What a great signing he is. At the end of the season, we're sitting in 3rd place. We have 34 points, 15 wins and 9 losses. We have a points for of 405 and a points against of 401. We have a horrid points differential of 4. In the first week of the finals, we have an away game against the Brisbane Broncos, and our team looks like this. The fullback Clint Gutherson, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Hayes Dunster, the centres Will Penasini and Blaze Tulagi, the halves Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, the props James Fisher-Harris and Joe Offahengawi, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Josh Schuster, Tallis Duncan, Dan Kerr and Sean Russell. But before the finals start, the Daily M Awards are here. And the Daily M Player of the Year, winning by 2 points, goes to Brad Parker. The runners-up are Blake Wilson, Alofiana Khan-Pereira, Daniel Atkinson, Greg Marju, Nick Meaney, Micah Sivo, Lachlan Ilias, Danny Levi, and Damien Cook. The People's Choice Award goes to Brad Parker. Captain of the Year goes to Cameron Munster. The top try scorer goes to Greg Marju with 15 tries, and the top point scorer goes to Isaiah Tass with 164 points. The Team of the Year, the fullback Shans Nickel-Cockstad, the winger Alofiana Khan-Pereira, the centre Brad Parker, the 5'8" Ethan Strange, the halfback Tom Weaver, the prop Tino Fasuamaawi, the hooker Danny Levi, the second rower David Fafita, and the lock Jazz Tavanga. We get blown out in the first week of the finals, losing to the Broncos 32 points to 10. Will Warbrick picks up a double and the player of the match. It's a grand final rematch in the second round of the finals, and our team is pretty much the same, except Talon Duncan is elevated into the starting lineup for the injured Joe Ofahengaue. Ofahiki Alden comes back from suspension and is on the bench. And we move on to the third week of the finals, defeating the Melbourne Storm 10 points to 0. Hayes Dunster wins player of the match. In the third week of the finals, we take on the Gold Coast Titans, and our team is still unchanged. Joe Ofahengaue will be out for the rest of the finals with an injury, which really sucks and hurts us. And we get eliminated in the third round, losing by 16 to the Titans, 22 points to 8. Isaac Tago, who will be joining us next year, picks up player of the match. The Canberra Raiders win the grand final and the premiership, defeating the Gold Coast Titans 32 points to 14 in the grand final. Adam Cook scores a hat-trick and wins player of the match and the Clyde Churchill medal. Congrats to him and the Raiders on winning the premiership. This is our roster for year 5. The fullback Sean Russell, the wingers Hayes Dunster, Bailey Simonson and Jake Targo, the centers Curtis Dunphy, Will Penasini and Isaac Targo, the 5'8" Dylan Brown and Blaze Deluggy. Mitchell Modis is the halfback, the props James Fisher-Harris, Ben Ioka, Ryan Jackson, Joe Ofahengaue, Ofahiki Ogden and Troy Paluka. The hookers Nathan Mossop and Tom Starling. The second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Dan Kerr, Liam Martin and Josh Schuster. And the locks Talis Duncan and Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1, we take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and our team looks like this. The fullback Blaze Tulagi finally gets his preferred position because somehow Clint Gufferson left. The wingers Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell. The centers Will Penasini and Isaac Targo. The halves Josh Schuster and Dylan Brown. The props Joe Ofahengaue and James Fisher-Harris. The hooker Tom Starling. The edges Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright with Jermaine Hopgood. The captain until Moses gets back and the lock. And on the bench Hayes Dunster, Talis Duncan, Ofahiki Ogden and Dan Kerr. I think this team is really good on paper and should be even better when Moses gets back. And we win our first game of the season, defeating the Rabbits 26 points to 8. Joe Ofahengaue picks up player of the match. In round 2, we take on the North Queensland Cowboys, and our team is pretty much the same, except Joe Ofahengaue is out injured, so Talis Duncan starts in his place, and Ryan Jackson, who we signed from the Dolphins, joins the bench. And we get our second win of the season, defeating the North Queensland Cowboys 26 points to 20, with Jermaine Hopgood winning player of the match. In round 3, we take on 14th place Newcastle Knights, and we've had another player injured. This time it's Bailey Simonson, so Hayes Dunster is on the wing. Joe Offahengawi is back, and he replaces Tallis Duncan in the starting lineup, who joins the bench, replacing Hayes Dunster. We start the season 3-0 with a 13-point win over the Newcastle Knights, 15-2. Jermaine Hopgood wins player of the match, and Dylan Brown kicks the field goal. After 10 rounds, we're currently in first position on 16 points. We have 8 wins and only 2 losses. We have a points for of 183 and a points against of 108. We have a points differential of 75, and we've won 3 out of our last 5 games. In round 4, we beat the Sharks 20-6. In round 5, we beat the Tigers 11-4. In round 6, the Panthers beat us 26-2. In round 7, we beat the Broncos 14-0. In round 8, we beat the Warriors 29-16. In round 9, the Dolphins beat us 24-16. And in round 10, we beat the Knights 24-2. I'm offering Jermaine Hopgood $500,000 a year for 3 years. Let's hope he accepts the deal. And he does. Jermaine Hopgood will be a Parramatta Eel for the next 3 years. I'll be offering Tallis Duncan a $475,000 deal across 3 seasons, and he re-signs with us as well. I'll be offering Josh Schuster a $485,000 contract extension for the next 3 years, and he re-signs with us as well. We're running out of options, so I'm going to offer this deal to Jaden Sullivan, and he signs with us. Finally someone that we can sign. It's the end of the season, and we're sitting in first place on 40 points. We have 18 wins in the season and 6 losses. We had a points for of 457 and a points against of 326. We play the West Tigers at home in the first week of the finals. In the first week of the finals, we take on the West Tigers, and this is how we look. The fullback Sean Russell, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Hayes Dunster, the centers Will Penasini and Isaac Targo, the halves Dylan Brown the 5'8" and Mitchell Moses the halfback, the props Joe Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris with Josh Schuster at hooker. On the edges, Bryce Cartwright and Liam Martin with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Jake Targo, Tallis Duncan, Ofahiki Ogden and Ryan Jackson. Our depth has definitely been tested this game, with Blaze Taluggi and Tom Starling being out. Before we get to the finals, the Daily M Awards are here, and the Daily M Player of the Year, winning by quite a lot, is Jack Bostock. The runners-up are Dejan Arce, Lachlan Ilias, Jesse Ramian, Sunia Taruva, Sean Russell, Nick Meaney, Brian Tuor, Brad Parker, and Tyrone Munro. The People's Choice Award goes to Jack Bostock. Captain of the Year goes to Jesse Ramian. The top try scorer goes to Cody Ramsey with 20 tries, and the top point scorer goes to Jack Cole with 163 points. The Team of the Year, the fullback Henry Wells, the winger Cody Ramsey, the centre Jesse Ramian, the 5'8" Tamare Martin, the halfback Sean O'Sullivan, the prop James Fisher-Harris, the hooker Tom Starling, the second rower Bryce Cartwright, and the lock Jermaine Hopgood. Our outs cost us, as we lose to the Tigers 12 points to 4. The Daily M Fullback of the Year Henry Wells wins Player of the Match. In the second week of the finals, we take on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, The only change is Blaze Talagi is back. So Sean Russell moves back to the wing, Hayes Dunster moves back to the bench, and Jake Targo is out of the side. Hopefully with the return of Talagi, we can get a different result than last week. And we move on to the third round, defeating the Canterbury Bulldogs 22 points to 12. Mitchell Moses wins player of the match. In the third week of the finals, we take on the Canberra Raiders, and we're finally back to full strength with the return of Tom Starling. So he moves back to the starting hooker, and Josh Schuster moves to the bench. Sadly, that does mean Ryan Jackson drops out of the team, but if it means Tom Starling is back, we'll take it. And we move on to the grand final. We defeat the Canberra Raiders 10-0. Liam Martin picks up player of the match. It's a finals week 1 rematch in the grand final. We're taking on the West Tigers, and this is our team. At fullback, Blaze Talagi. On the wings, Bailey Simonson and Sean Russell. The centres, Will Penasini and Isaac Targo. The halves, Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses. The props, Joe Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Bryce Cartwright and Liam Martin, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Hayes Dunster, Tallis Duncan, Ofahiki Ogden and Josh Schuster. Hopefully we can get our revenge from the finals week 1 in the grand final. And we can't. We lose to them for the second time this finals, 10 points to 0. David Fafita wins player of the match and the Clive Churchill medal. Congrats to him and the Tigers on winning the grand final. Some notable signings that happened during the off-season. Tino is going to the Warriors, Payne Haas going to the Titans, Cameron Munster and Shans Nickel-Clockstack going to the Dragons, Adam Reynolds going to the Sharks, Adam Dewey going to the Panthers, Dan Laurie going to the Tigers, Daniel Saifidi going to the Dragons, Jacob Saifidi going to the Dolphins, Isaiah Papali'i going to the Rabbits, Su'a Fa'alogo going to the Storm, Raymond Fatala-Mariner going to the Panthers, Griffin Neem going to the Dolphins, Davida Pangai Jr. going to the Raiders, Lindsay Smith going to the Knights, and Moses Sully going to the Broncos. Our roster for Year 6 looks like this. The fullbacks Ben Carl and Sean Russell, the wingers Hayes Dunster, Bailey Simonson and Jake Targo, the centres Curtis Dunphy, Will Penasini and Isaac Targo, the halves Dylan Brown and Blaze Talagi, the halfback Jaden Sullivan, the props James Fisher-Harris, Ben Ioka, Ryan Jackson, Joe Offahengawi, Ofahiki Ogden and Troy Paluka, the hookers Nathan Mossop and Tom Starling, the second rowers Bryce Cartwright, Dan Kerr, Liam Martin and Josh Schuster, and the locks Tallis Duncan and Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1, we take on the Manly Sea Eagles, and our team looks like this. The fullback Sean Russell, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Hayes Dunster, the centres Isaac Targo and Will Penasini, the halves Blaze Talagi at 5'8", and with the loss of Mitchell Moses, Dylan Brown moves to halfback. The props Joe Offahengawi and Tom Starling, and Fisher-Harris with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. And on the bench, Josh Schuster, Tallis Duncan, Ofahiki Ogden and Ryan Jackson. We'll see how we go first game after the grand final loss. And it's a draw. We draw with the Sea Eagles 24 points to 24. Bailey Simonson picks up player of the match. In round 2, we take on the New Zealand Warriors, who are coming off a 6-point win over the Melbourne Storm. And as you can see, the team list is still unchanged from last week. And we can't get the same result. We lose to the Warriors 24 points to 0. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck scores a hat-trick and picks up the player of the match. In round 3, we take on the 4th place Brisbane Broncos, and the only change to the team is Jake Targo comes in on the wing to replace the injured Bailey Simonson. And we start the season with 2 losses, going down to the Broncos 10 points to 2. Moses Sully picks up player of the match. We're 10 games into the season and we're sitting in 15th place on 5 points. We have 2 wins, 7 losses and a draw. We have a points for of 134 and a points against of 191. We have a points differential of negative 57. We won our first game of the season in round 8. This is how our horrid season has looked. In round 4, we lost to the Cowboys 27-26. In round 5, we lost to the Tigers 18-14. In round 6, we lost to the Panthers 28-6. In round 7, we lost to the Rabbits 18-10. In round 8, we beat the Knights 10-0. In round 9, we beat the Sharks 18-16. And in round 10, we lost to the Dolphins 26-24. We have $600,000 left in the salary cap, so I'm going to offer it to Nathan Cleary and hope for the best. We've actually signed Nathan Cleary. To start, we finished the year in 6th on 29 points. We have 12 wins, 11 losses and a draw. We had a points for of 401 and a points against of 382. We had a points differential of 19, and we take on the North Queensland Cowboys at home in the first week of the final. The Cowboys in the first week of the finals, and our team looks like this. The fullback Sean Russell, the wingers Bailey Simonson and Hayes Dunster, the centers Isaac Targo and Will Penasini, the halves Blaze Talagi and Dylan Brown, the props Stoke Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Liam Martin and Bryce Cartwright, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Josh Schuster, Tallis Duncan, Ryan Jackson and Offa Hickey Ogden. Before we get to the finals, the Daily M awards are here. And the Daily M Player of the Year is Semi Velame. The runners-up, Katoni Staggs, Xavier Coates, Sam Verrills, Ben Sione, Hayes Dunster, Vondel Minicello, Brian Kelly, Lachlan Ilias, and Kalen Ponga. The People's Choice Award goes to Semi Velame. Captain of the Year, Dream Buller. Top try scorer, Xavier Coates with 17 tries. And top point scorer, Katoni Staggs with 184 points. The fullback for Team of the Year, Ali Liatau. The winger, Xavier Coates. The centre, Katoni Staggs. The 5'8", Lachlan Galvin. The halfback, Aiden Caesar. The prop, Jesse Bromwich. The hooker, Freddie Lussick. The second rower, Dave Fafita. And the lock, Morgan Smithies. We went from grand finalists to losing in the first round next year. We lose to the North Queensland Cowboys 22 points to 14. Brian To'o wins player of the match. The Gold Coast Titans go on to win the grand final, defeating the Cronulla Sharks 18 points to 10. Cleese Haas wins the Clive Churchill Medal and player of the match. Congrats to him and the Titans on winning the grand final. Our roster heading into the season looks like this. The fullbacks Ben Carl and Sean Russell. The wingers Hayes Dunster and Jake Targo. The centers Will Penasini, Brett Schroeder and Isaac Targo. The 5'8s Dylan Brown and Blaze Talagi. The halfbacks Nathan Cleary and Jaden Sullivan. The props James Fisher-Harris, Ben Ioka, Ryan Jackson, Joe Offahengawi, Offa Hickey Ogden, Troy Paluka, and Sam Tagaloa. The hookers Steve Amor and Tom Starling. The second row was Bryce Cartwright, Dan Kerr, and Josh Schuster. The locks Tallis Duncan and Jermaine Hopgood. In round 1, we take on the Redcliffe Dolphins, and our team looks like this. The fullback Blaze Talangi, the wingers Sean Russell and Hayes Dunster, the centres Isaac Targo and Will Penasini, the 5'8" and captain Dylan Brown, the halfback Nathan Cleary, the props Joe Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Bryce Cartwright and Josh Schuster, and at lock, Jermaine Hopgood. On the bench, Jaden Sullivan, Tallis Duncan, Ofahiki Ogden, and Ryan Jackson. We win our first game of the season, defeating the Dolphins 22 points to 18. And in Nathan Cleary's first game as an Eel, he picks up player of the match. In round 2, we're taking on the Newcastle Knights, who are coming off a 10-point win over the North Queensland Cowboys. Hopefully we can get the same result as we did last week. And we can. We defeat them by 20, 30 points to 10, and Josh Schuster wins player of the match. In round 3, we're taking on the Brisbane Broncos, who are 1-1 in their first 2 games. The only change we made is Ofahiki Ogden is out with injury, so Dan Kerr takes his place on the bench. And it doesn't matter, we get the win. We defeat the Broncos 18 points to 16. Murray Taulagi, in a losing team, scores a double and picks up player of the match. We're 10 rounds into the competition, and we're currently sitting in first place with 8 wins and 2 losses. We have a points for of 198 and a points against of 112. We have a points differential of 86. In round 4, we defeated the Seagulls 18-8. In round 5, we defeated the Tigers 20-6. In round 6, we lost to the Rabbits 18-8. In round 7, we beat the Sharks 24-4. In round 9, we beat the Titans 26-14. In round 10, we lost to the Knights 12-8. And in round 10, we beat the Dolphins 24-6. I'll be offering Isaac Tago $600,000 a year for 3 years, and he re-signs with us. It's the end of the season, and we had a very dominant year, finishing first on 38 points. We had 17 wins and only 7 losses, 2 of them coming in the last 2 rounds when we had our reserves in. We had points for of 460 and a points against of 333. We have a points differential of 130. We take on the New Zealand Warriors at home in the first week of the finals. In the first week of the finals, we take on the New Zealand Warriors, and this is how we look. The fullback Blaze Talangi, the wingers Sean Russell and Jake Targo, the centres Will Penasini and Isaac Targo, the 5'8" Dylan Brown, Nathan Cleary the halfback, the props Joe Offahengawi and James Fisher-Harris, with Tom Starling at hooker. On the edges, Bryce Cartwright and Josh Schuster, with Jermaine Hopgood at lock. On the bench, Jaden Sullivan, Ofahiki Ogden, Ryan Jackson and Dan Kerr. But before we get to the finals, the Daily M awards are here. And the Daily M Player of the Year goes to one of our players, Sean Russell. The runners-up, Zach Lomax, Corey Thompson, Jesse Ramian, Jason Saab, Alex Lobb, Emery Cummins, Brian Kelly, Sam Verrills, and Selwyn Cobbo. The People's Choice Award goes to Emery Cummins. Captain of the Year, Aden Fanua-Blake. Top try scorer, Alex Lobb with 21 tries. And top point scorer, Zach Lomax with 182 points. The full Team of the Year, fullback Adam Dewey, winger Hayes Dunster, centre Will Penasini, 5'8" Connor Jamison, halfback Zach Nichols, prop Adam Fanua-Blake, hooker Sam Verrills, second rower Josh Schuster, and lock Caleb Navali. Injuries has cost us as we go down to the Warriors 12-0 in the first week of the finals. Dallin Watene-Selesniak picks up player of the match. In the second week of the finals, we take on the North Queensland Cowboys, and it's pretty much the exact same team, except we get a bit better with the return of Dallas Duncan. That does mean Dan Kerr drops out of the lineup. With a 22-6 win over the Cowboys, Blaze Deluggy wins player of the match in the third round of the finals, and the only change is Dallas Duncan is starting for the suspended Joe Ofahengaue. Dan Kerr moves on to the interchange bench. We make it past the third round of the finals by defeating the Penrith Panthers 14-6. Blaze Deluggy is our only try scorer with 2 tries, and he picks up player of the match. Dylan Warriors in the grand final, and this is how our team looks. The fullback Blaze Deluggy, the wingers Sean Russell and Jake Targo, the centers Will Penasini and Isaac Targo, the halves Dylan Brown at 5'8" and Nathan Cleary at halfback, the props Joe Ofahengaue and James Fisher-Harris with Tom Starling at hooker, on the edges Bryce Cartwright and Josh Schuster with Jermaine Hopgood at lock, on the bench Jaden Sullivan, Dallas Duncan, Ryan Jackson and Offa Hickey-Ogden. We finally do it. We win the grand final by defeating the New Zealand Warriors 23-16. Tom Starling picks up player of the match and the Clive Churchill medal. That's going to end today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below what team you want to see next.